Alright, Dan Brown, this is a conversation that I'd love to have with you.
It will be alright.
Now, as a hardcore classically trained music nerd who's currently studying at a reputable school, as evidenced by the fact that I had to get in the shop by sitting on my stack of symphonies. Not even kidding. I have to say that the topic of American culture has been something that has frustrated me very frequently. Mostly because it is our American musical vernacular, but there's also a lot of other stuff associated with it that's completely not musical. But in order to discuss the subject which you specifically pointed out being teen pop idol sensations, I think it's important to step back in American history to the year 1850. To the event that some would call the beginning of American celebrity culture. Now, I'm sure a lot of Americans know this, but just to review for everybody else, back in 1850, our country was basically starting out and we didn't really have a cultural identity. And the only cultural identity that we knew was that of Europe. And P.T. Barnum, the American entertainment tycoon, wanted to capitalize on the successes of Europe. So when he heard of the Swedish singing sensation Jenny Lind, he wanted in on that. Now, Jenny Lind was an incredibly successful Swedish soprano called the Swedish Nightingale, and she was actually disillusioned with the European musical scene because she didn't like the way that European opera theater was being run. So P.T. Barnum decided he wanted to hire her and bring her on tour around the US. The only issue, of course, was that he did not know how to market a soprano in the US because, I mean, at that point, what did Americans really know about opera theater? So he came up with a formula that's basically been used ever since then. He created a lot of hype in various forms of advertisement, and one of the big things that he did was that he hired people to make impromptu celebrations of Jenny Lind's arrival. Now, things like this have been around in music for a while. One of the examples that I can think of off the top of my head is the guy that they hired to stand backstage at orchestra concerts to start clapping when the piece is done so that the audience doesn't clap when they're not supposed to. He just starts clapping and everyone else follows him. So needless to say, due to these impromptu celebrations, hype spread like crazy, and there were like 40,000 people waiting at the dock when Jenny Lind arrived in the US. Now, the interesting thing was that contrary to what had ever happened in music before, people no longer cared that she was singing beautiful arias by the best bel canto composers. They cared that she was Jenny Lind, the Swedish Nightingale. They bought Jenny Lind clothing, Jenny Lind furniture, Jenny Lind artwork. Anything with Jenny Lind's name on it, people would buy. And that formula has basically stuck around in music ever since then. And this is pretty evident in American teen pop culture nowadays. Basically, as long as you get somebody who looks good and has minimal singing talent, you can auto-tune them, you can put good clothes on them, give them makeup, airbrush any picture of them. I mean, they don't have to be real people for people to like them. They only have to be saleable. Unfortunately, the situation flares up so quickly that it just burns back out. I mean, seriously, who actually still pays attention to Hillary Duff and Aaron Carter? Just to name a few. So companies just keep finding new talents that are really just people that they want to sell. So here comes my opinion on the matter. I personally listen to music because I like the music. I personally listen to music that has something to say. I personally listen to music for my own entertainment. And you simply can't get that when you have someone who's only being commodified. So my point is, I really don't like the idea of American teen idols because they're only being idolized because they can be turned into perfect things, and I would rather have someone be celebrated for being talented. But that's just me.